Madam Rajavi, distinguished guests, most importantly, the family members of those who were injured at Camp Ashraf or those who are still at Camp Ashraf. It's an honor for me to be here today. I was a soldier for over 3 decades, and a little over 10 years ago, I first learned of the existence of a group of Iranians dedicated towards democracy in Iran. I researched this group. Little did I know that in a very short time, I would be personally involved with this group, their leaders, and their plight. But first, I have suffered at the hands of terrorists. I was the Director of Security for the Army at the Pentagon on 9/11, September 11th. Shortly thereafter, I deployed as the senior military policeman responsible for many missions in Iraq, and what I consider most importantly, the safety and security for the over 3,000 members of the MEK at Camp Ashraf. Yes, protected persons at Camp Ashraf. I was there when they voluntarily disarmed. I was there when they consolidated at Camp Ashraf. I saw what remained of their other facilities after they were looted and destroyed. I was there when each and every person of the MEK was biometrically identified, vetted, screened, and individually interviewed. Did we find any terrorists or criminals or undesirables among the several thousand men and women? No. Each was thoroughly investigated, and not one was identified as having any linkage to criminal acts. A few had unpaid parking tickets. That might seem a little humorous, but I used that to show how thoroughly we investigated each member of the MEK. I really had to step back and wonder as a commander, why are they identified as terrorists? I tried very hard to find some credible allegation, some overt or covert crime, criminal acts, anything as to why this group was labeled in so despairing a way. I could not. My soldiers asked me, "Sir, they support democracy, freedom, and especially equal rights for women." I did not have an answer for my soldiers. And it wasn't rhetoric. I witnessed firsthand equal rights in action at Camp Ashraf. I spent a significant amount of time living and working at Camp Ashraf. I have the pleasure to know almost every senior leader of the MEK at Ashraf and a significant number of their junior members. After the vetting process was completed, I brought the message back to Madam Pársáiyi, then Commander, now I refer to as Madam Zhora, Mr. Daavrey, and many of the other leaders, that they were now classified as protected persons under the Geneva Convention, and I was personally charged with their safety and security, a mission which I took very seriously and to this day take very seriously. Yes, even now, though I'm no longer responsible directly for the safety and security at Camp Ashraf, I still feel morally responsible. As far back as 2003, everything we asked of the MEK, they complied with. Everything. And we established procedures so they could self-sustain, so that they could go and purchase some of the logistics they needed, but most importantly, in order to allow visitors, especially their family members, to come see them. Did some of the members of the MEK want to leave during my tenure? Yes, of course. Small numbers. A few just up and left. Others, they were turned over to my forces and we housed them until we could find a disposition be established for where they would go. There were vague allegations of torture and people being held against their will by the MEK. This is wrong. I had open and unrestricted access to every area on Camp Ashraf, and I took advantage of that. I staged independent, unannounced inspections and never, ever discovered any indication of torture or anyone being kept against their will. And I tried to prove those allegations. But the only thing I was ever able to prove without a doubt was that the allegations were false.